what is climate forcing and how positive and negative forcing results in changing the Earth's average surface temperature. I believe this is more of a straight question. ज़्यादा कुछ सोचना नहीं है. You just had to know what these terms are. Okay? So, like an answer, I'm giving you more or less because the terms कुछ हैं इसमें लिख लो आप लोग right down here. So, climate forcing is the mechanism of factors responsible for change in the temperatures on the Earth. The climate forcing factors can be external factors which are beyond Earth, such as those related to Earth's sun geometry. They can be external factors. These are the Earth sun geometry. You can develop on this. इसमें बस एक और ऐड करना है. Okay. Factors related to sun irradiation, such as sunspot cycles. ये दो को बोलते हैं external forcing, external factors, or external forcings, also called as external forcings. And then we have internal forcings related to Earth itself. Earth itself, जैसे कि volcanism है, plate tectonics है, such as even the human aspects, okay, change in atmospheric chemistry. Okay. The same points, आपको वही लिखना है, okay? The external factors and internal factors. Now you have an equation on this. लिखो आप write down here. The radiation balance, we have the radiation balance RB. RB is equal to G minus R minus AE, where G is the total incoming radiation, R is the reflected component, and AE is the albedo. This is the expression for climatic forcing. Okay. RB is the radiation balance. This is the incoming radiation, reflected component. Okay. This is from the atmosphere, and this is largely the surface albedo. Okay. Now, if you look at the climate forcing, presently impacting है. I gave the three reasons yesterday. One is changes in the solar irradiation. Number two is albedo changes. And number three is changes in atmospheric chemistry. ये तीन पे आप डिस्कस करना. Solar irradiation, the incoming solar insolation, the albedo changes. So if you have, see, what I'm looking at is, अगर question आपको climate change पूछेगा, okay, so don't write a regular answer. एक paragraph करना है how climate change and climate forcing related है. Maybe give this equation where you can give these terms, और इस term के basis पे explain करना. Okay, so now to explain this one, okay, so your heading will be now climate change and climate forcing as modified heat budget, So the same diagram, I think all of you know this. Okay, surface, incoming radiation, something gets reflected, something gets absorbed. Okay, atmosphere, जो आपको diagram पता है. Okay, 5% loss, 20% absorption, 10% absorption. Draw the diagram, please. Heat budget. This will become the component of explaining climate change in terms of the climate forcing. Okay. Now, the question was asking you also how positive and negative forcing result in changing of Earth's average temperature. So, positive forcing क्या है? What is positive forcing? And what is negative forcing? Positive forcing mein it is net warming. Negative forcing mein you will have net cooling. Write down something here. Okay, what is the positive forcing? The positive forcing is when the net amount of incoming solar radiation, is more than the losses. So इसमें क्या होगा? G is more than, okay, radiative loss plus albedo. इसमें RB is positive. The net incoming radiation, G, आपकी equation लिखा G, okay. So net incoming radiation is more than the radiative losses and the albedo. okay, together. This is more. If this is more, okay, then what happens is you'll have RBS positive. इसको relate करना as basically sunspot cycles. Sunspot cycles. Okay, you have got solar winds, sunspot cycles, solar winds, and negative forcing likho. When the net G is less than, when G is less than this. Okay, less than this में, okay, this happens mainly. ये कब कम होगा? One is the negative phases of the solar sunspot cycles. The sun is relatively cooler. Negative phases of solar cycle. ये वाला एक है. The second is atmospheric cover of clouds, aerosols, atmospheric cover of clouds, aerosols with a higher reflective component. Okay. So ये वाला जो part है ना, this can be because of volcanism. This can be because of higher cloud cover. So whenever, that's the reason why after every major tectonic event, the earth goes through a cooling phase. Major mountain building के बाद में हमेशा ice age हुआ है. Okay, Appalachian mountain building, the Hertzian mountain building, followed by Permian ice age. Similarly, we had the tertiary mountain building and the Pleistocene ice age. Volcanism में there is lot of dust, there is lot of aerosols, there is lot of moisture. So long-term effect is, okay, it can cause negative forcing. आप इसमें ऐड कर सकते हो that because of changes in the land surface properties, because of changes in the land surface properties, the albedo component has changed. In some parts that are associated with heavy snowfall in the winters. Just like the earth in general has become, okay, warm, ठीक है. But you know about the polar vortex, you know about the cold air from the Arctic regions. Okay, we know about the blocking cyclones. उसमें क्या है? There are pockets where we can have heavy snow. इसका example है the northeastern US. Okay, bomb cyclone events. मैंने last में लिखा है आपको. What has happened because of AMOC slowing down? याद आ रहा है आपको? The AMOC slows down. The warm air from tropics moving towards poles is less. You have got more of cold air coming from the polar areas. So the heavy snowfall hoga, for that brief time, you can have negative forcing. Because negative forcing, so you can add kar sakte ho point. The negative forcing are brief phases in the winters. They are brief phases in the winters, in the otherwise average global warming conditions. ठीक है? With examples, so कहाँ पर changes है. You can add one more point here, write down that long term, एक और point add करो negative forcing में. A long term impact of recent higher intensities of volcanism. Long-term impact of the recent higher intensities of volcanism. The last 4 साल में volcanism for whatever reason has increased. Okay, be it Tonga Islands, be it parts of your Spain, Mediterranean, be it parts of your Philippines, there is an increased volcanism. That can lead to some negative forcing. And the second one is negative forcing because of the forest fire, particulates in North America, in Siberia, Southeast Asia and South Asia. Essentially, it becomes a kind of a layer that blocks insolation. ये वाला आपका equation याद रखना. Okay, जहां पर आपका net ये कम जाएगा. ये कमेगा क्यों? I said because of increased cloud cover, because of volcanism, solar irradiation. इसमें आप add कर देना if you want to add the forest fire particulates. The sunlight will increase and that might cause brief negative forcing. So keep it like a short summary types. Use करना wherever you can in the climate change discussions. आपका एक topic है global ecological imbalance. ठीक है, in your biogeography section, no, in environment section. Next one right now. Give a heading: global ecological imbalances. Global ecological imbalances. अगर इस पे सवाल आया, you will write about 4 things. Global ecological imbalance. One is talk about the imbalances related to loss of forests. Imbalances related to loss of forests. Okay. Atmospheric imbalance. Imbalance in biodiversity. Atmospheric imbalance, so CO2, oxygen. Then we have losses in biodiversity and also imbalances in the precipitation patterns. Imbalances in the precipitation patterns. इस पे लिखना. Okay. Second, write about climate forcing events. Climate forcing events, जो discuss किया अभी मैंने. Third, you will write about the ocean or marine heat waves. I'll discuss something on that today, on marine heat waves. And fourth, write about the atmospheric changes, because change in equator to poles gradient of temperature. Atmospheric changes because of equator to pole change in gradient of temperature. ठीक है, so इसके अंदर में आएगा slowing down of the upper tropospheric winds, slowing down of upper tropospheric winds. इसमें आएगा the weakening polar vortex, anticyclone blocking, anticyclones blocking, and the consequence of weakening AMOC. So I've taught this last 2 classes में. आपको बस सारा एक साथ लिख देना है, because ecological imbalance as one theme they have not yet asked. If they ask you, that's how you discover. So इसमें क्या हमने cover किया है? To hint you here, I have covered biodiversity in this because you have forests in this. I have covered marine aspects in this because I'm talking about marine heat waves. उसको link कर देना in terms of coral reefs and the rest. Okay, I have covered upper tropospheric winds. Okay, and all the common phenomena because of that. Is it okay, all of you here? So winds, forests, marine. ये आपका 3 main components है. And move it towards the climate forcing consequences. ठीक है? So that's about this one, how it impacts this one. Now, let's take up some data on, give a heading of forest fires. All these are inputs to develop your answer. जैसे आपका questions आएगा, forest fires. So I'll give you some summary from some reports. Wait. So first, the Canadian forest fire. First, the Canadian forest fire. कुछ पढ़ा आपने? Why are we having the Canadian forest fire? Any idea? Why are we having Canadian forest fire? एक तो कहाँ हो रहा है? आपको मैप से पता होना चाहिए. If this is Great Lakes, so one area is this area. The Ontario area has forest fires. Okay, Ontario area, and this is what is impacting New York, impacting Chicago, entire New England states. The sky is deep red, particulate matter, pollution. Okay, sunlight almost blocked. ठीक है? This is the Ontario region. एक यहाँ पर है और एक इधर भी है. This is the Alberta, Manitoba region. This is the Ontario region. This is Alberta and Manitoba region. The province of Alberta and Manitoba. And this, of course, impacts these parts of the US. ठीक है? So map में दिखाना. Where do we have the first fires of Canada? And now, reasons क्या हैं? Reasons. So one reason, of course, is in general, global warming. Global warming, the heat waves of Canada. Heat waves of Canada. So you can have a small discussion on blocking, anticyclones, blocking phenomena, anticyclones. Okay. Temperatures in Halifax. Halifax यहाँ पर एक province है, यहाँ पर side में, अब city है. Halifax. The temperatures here was almost touching 35 degrees centigrade. Halifax, temperatures touching 35 degrees centigrade. They're very, very hot conditions. Okay. वैसे यहाँ पर you have a city called as Edmonton. Edmonton और यहाँ पर Calgary है. Edmonton and Calgary. In the last year's heat wave, temperature almost touched 38 degrees centigrade. Talking about tropical areas almost. Okay. Edmonton and Calgary. Calgary. Temperatures. So one factor is average warming is more. Heat waves, blocking. Okay, you can show that omega blocking जो पढ़ाया मैंने आपको. Okay, show that. These areas become low pressure, surface high pressure, and so on. That's one reason. The second reason is drier winters and drier summers. The precipitation patterns have suddenly changed. Drier winters and drier summers. Dry winters because of very cold winds from the Arctic region. Very cold winds from the Arctic region. So very cold winds, the average snowfall is less. There could be some moments of heavy snowfall. Otherwise, the snowfall is less. So very less snow cover. Very less snow cover. Okay. Third factor is lightning. In fact, Ontario mein this year, lightning has been a very important reason. Lightning in Ontario. They're saying there are two reasons. One is the increased cyclonic activity in the parts of Atlantic Ocean. Why do we have more Atlantic? Why do we have more of lightning? Because of more of cyclonic activity, more depressions here because of warm waters. Thunderstorms, uska impact hoga lightning. That's one. Second is related to solar winds also. The ions, charges, whatever, increase solar wind activities. Solar wind activities. Okay. There is a third reason. Third or fourth. Third reason. Third reason is the forest fire control strategies. Forest fire control strategies, which is a long history of fire suppression. A long history of fire suppression. It's very interesting. Okay. Because of their initiatives, they have not allowed forest fires to happen for a long time. So the inflammable grasses, leaves, all of that has piled up. Forest fires is one kind of a natural mechanism to clean the forests. Okay. ये अमेरिका में भी हो रहा है और ये कनाडा में भी है. The inflammable, because ultimately pine trees, right? Pine trees have inflammable turpentine. Unka jo branches leaves they have kind of piled up. It's like if you had small fires which could have been distributed, it would have been better. Okay, so forest fire suppression strategies have resulted in a cumulative impact. Okay, forest fire suppression strategies have led to a cumulative effect. Canada and North America need more frequent controlled fire strategies. They require more frequent controlled fire strategies. So, agar like ecological imbalance पूछेगा, you'll always add this part also. Okay, forest fires में. But this is more like a case study, Canadian forest fire case study, and then you are on. Now come to the Indian forest fires. I have some data with me here. Okay, data is that in January and February alone, India reported more than 1,000 forest fires. India reported more than 1,000 forest fires this year. And across India, okay, 4 states very vulnerable. Uttarakhand is very vulnerable. Himachal Pradesh is very vulnerable. Karnataka and Maharashtra. The 4 states are very vulnerable to forest fires. Uttarakhand, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, and Maharashtra. Okay. So many forest fires also in parts of, when I say forest fires, don't just imagine Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh. You also have them in parts of the Peninsular Plateau. That's one point. Right next slide down. That the single main reason are those related to climate change because of daytime temperature spikes. Spikes of more than 5 to 6 degrees centigrade above normal. 5 to 6 degrees centigrade above normal. That's one reason. The second is some of these temperature increases are because of ENSO cycles. They say there is a correlation between high forest fires of 2016-17, high incidence of forest fires in 2016-17 because of El Nino. And 2023 also has predictions of higher forest fires. This year, 23 also has predictions of higher forest fires because of El Nino. Third while warm conditions and dry conditions can be can be a reason, but immediate factor is always vandalism, and deliberate factors, including shifting agriculture. जो कि नीलगिरीज में and parts of Eastern Ghats, we call it as PODU, P-O-D-U, PODU agriculture. In parts of Nilgiris, Eastern Ghats is called as PODU agriculture. Andhra Pradesh mein, Karnataka, Odisha. And very interesting, I discovered that NDMA, put a star mark, NDMA, as of now, does not recognize forest fires as natural hazards. NDMA does not recognize forest fires as natural hazards because the incidences in India are almost always deliberate, either because of negligence or for agricultural purpose. So it's more often anthropogenic hazard in India. इसमें एक example है, one of the worst forest fires in recent times, was in Bandipur and Mudumalai reserves. 2019 mein. And it was because of sabotage. So what's happening is, now see, if NDMA says that forest fires are anthropogenic, unke interventions kya hota hai? Basically, ensuring the people don't light fires. So they are not focused on कि fire होने के बाद में how do you control it? So prevention is what they're trying to do. That's okay, that's fine. But post fire interventions India में बहुत weak है. They're down because of assuming all forest fires are anthropogenic in India. The focus is more on patrolling and surveillance to prevent forest fires in and around the tribal areas, but not much efforts to intervene for fire control. If there are forest fires. तो ये पूरा mindset लगानी है कि हम चाहते नहीं लगे, so we monitor, we track the tribal say movements, we try to discourage, educate or whatever. अगर आग लग गई, we are not able to control it as effectively. And in any case, just know this, that forest fire management is a very high investment area. It's not very easy to do it. Forest fire management is high investment intensive and also very high technology intensive. India lacks the firefighting capacity. In the larger forest fire scales. So this is one content. Use it the way you can. One I said is talk about the problems of climate forcing. Second is this one, forest fire. Isko use karna jahan possible hai. Take a third one. Next one, landslides. Pucha bhi hai. Now see, the first point here is that Indian Himalayan slopes are naturally vulnerable to landslides. Because number one, soft sedimentary accumulations hai. There are soft sedimentary accumulations. Number two, the slopes are steep. Number three, heavy rainfall and cloudburst vulnerable regions hai. ये पूरा belt जो है, right from Ladakh, Jammu Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, with the northeast, all of them are vulnerable to heavy rainfall, cloudbursts. And the fourth reason is deforestation, either logging or forest fire. And the fifth reason is rapid construction activities. And please, you can mention the Char Dham project. The official release bhi hua hai, that's okay then. The Char Dham project, the four laning of Uttaranchal and Himachal highways. Construction में 2-3 है. एक आपका four laning है construction में. Second is tunneling for HEP and also tunneling for your road connectivity. Fourth is higher population pressure, more intense human activities, and more disruptions of slope ecosystems. What disruption of slope ecosystems? इसके ऊपर में all of this aggravates. Why? Because Himalayas are tectonically unstable. Active faults हैं, earthquake belt है, so all of this makes it unstable. That's about Himalayas. Second, about Western Ghats. Now, Western Ghats, okay, the higher slopes traditionally are not vulnerable to landslides. The higher slopes traditionally are not vulnerable to landslides because of laterization. Because of laterization. The laterization में क्या होता है? Okay, this is the Western Ghats. The upper layers, यहाँ पर hard lateritic caps बन जाता है. So it rains, the rains run off. The rains will not percolate. The rains will not percolate. It's like a hard cap protecting the entire slopes. This is naturally not as vulnerable. Okay. The more vulnerable parts are the lower slopes. The lower slopes. Now, lower slopes may the higher vulnerability is because one is plantation agriculture, second is urbanization and construction, third is mining, construction, rocks mining. Okay, so lower slopes are vulnerable. Uske upar we are doing agriculture, so loss of forests, urbanization and slope modifications, and third is mining. Iske upar mein there are two more factors which have aggravated. Two more factors aggravated. One is increase of cloud bursts in the Western Ghats. Increase of cloud bursts in the Western Ghats. We're talking about Wayanad region, southern Western Ghats, Malabar slopes. These areas have more heavy rainfall, heavy cloud bursts. Ye climatic hai. And the second is lateritic mining and bauxite mining. Lateritic mining and bauxite mining that exposes the softer rocks underneath. That exposes the softer rocks underneath. So, आपने क्या किया है? Okay. In this part, you have done mining. You've done mining. Now you have hard rock is gone. Ye soft rocks hai. So now the rainfall here will percolate down. Percolates down, makes the slopes unstable, and the whole thing will now start slipping down. Okay. So keep it as a box, maybe whatever. The question I was trying to answer is that the landslides intervention. Okay, what can we do on that? I'm keeping Joshi-Mutt in mind. Joshi-Mutt in mind, changes in up add kar sakte ho, maybe as a case study. As a case study, Uttaranchal, Badrinath, Joshi-Mutt region. Sorry, Joshi-Mutt, sorry, I think Joshi-Mutt. Joshi-Mutt region. Okay. Is यहाँ पर three reasons. So use Joshi-Mutt as, I think आपको मैंने diagram भी दिया हुआ है, remember reverse का दिया हुआ है मैंने आपको. I think I gave it to you in the answer discussions. Mandakini river, Alaknanda river, Pindari river, the main Bhagirathi. आप please draw करना उसको. Okay, draw that diagram. Okay, Bhagirathi river, Alaknanda river, Mandakini river, Pindari river, Dev Prayag, Karna Prayag, Vishnu Prayag. Show Joshi. Okay, so draw the regional map. Okay, और यहाँ के reasons क्या है? One is it's a very ancient landfill site, an ancient landfill site because of a history of landslides. The landfill site यहाँ पर इकट्ठा हुआ है. It is still not well consolidated. Not well consolidated. Okay, that's one reason. Second is cloud bursts, changes in the channel courses. Cloud burst, changes in the channel courses. ये ऋषि गंगा में हुआ है, या अलकनंदा का हुआ है, मंदाकिनी का हुआ है. Changes in the channel course. Okay, इस साल तो ये last year we had another bad one. Okay, because of Rishi Ganga river में the flood impacted the Tapovan project, if you remember. Okay, the project called Tapovan project, it impacted there. The course can change. The third reason is the tunneling for the Tapovan HEP project. Tunneling for the Tapovan HEP project. See what technology, what they are doing now is, I'm just explaining why tunneling. देखो पहले हम क्या करते थे? One old technology was, I have a river, I make a dam, and I allow the water of the dam to fall like this. Okay, this is the more common technology that we know of. We have got Swiss gates here, और यहाँ से water गिर रहा है, and you have turbines and whatever. ठीक है. Now, what's also done is that they use tunnels to channel water underground like this, and we have a turbine running here. So it's not simply directly overflow hai. Okay, these are used to control the water levels now. But आपका underground tunnel hai, and this tunnel takes the water to run the turbines. So आपके जितने भी dams बन रहे हैं lately, they all are based on this tunnel project. So you need drilling. Okay, it is not simply make a wall and keep quiet. You need drilling. The water can be diverted to the heights to run a turbine. तो यह तपोवन project में यही tunneling चल रहा है for quite some time. अच्छा, इसके ऊपर में one more reason is that good parts of Uttarakhand have unsustainable population pressures, which includes constructions, slope modifications, okay, loss of forest cover, etc. So Joshimath ko as a case study with diagram show this. So now the intervention jo hai, now that's where I was focusing on. So what are the interventions in landslides? And down, jo conventional traditional method kya hai? The conventional traditional method is slope strengthening at construction areas, largely using retaining walls. Number two is slope strengthening by wire nets and mesh and stone pitching. Most of these is done in areas of construction. So look at this. So this was the mountain. So आपने क्या किया है? You are making a road here. You make a road here. So now road, because I know it's slope, say modification, so I can probably make a kind of a retaining wall here. ये मैंने बना दिया. In some parts here, I can have some wire mesh. I can pitch stones, and I've strengthened this. We don't realize that this is not the only areas of landslides. Landslide areas could also be this, could also be this. Because whatever activities you are doing here, somewhere is loosening the rocks elsewhere also. आप जब hills में जाएंगे, आपको सारा दिखाई देगा जहां पर रोड बना है, जहां पर घर बना रहे हैं, जहां घर काट रहे हैं, जहां पे they are doing construction. That area they are managing. But then we have not managed the upper reaches. They have not managed the other related areas jahan par we can have faults or we can have some loose connections. Okay, write down this point here. Write down the traditional landslides management uses physical measures like improved drainage, slope stabilization structures to strengthen the vulnerable slopes. The more modern approach has to include vulnerability mapping, based on. So this is a research paper I got my hand on. It says that land risk assessment management review hai. Okay, now this one says what we need to do is for the entire mountain belt, आपका construction हो ना हो, you need a proper survey of all the rock types and soil types, the presence of faults and the weak zones. Okay, so it's complete mapping of the mountains, the rock types, okay, the slopes, slope angles, the presence of ancient faults, rock joints, to prepare a vulnerability map. That's one. Number two, a complete hydrogeological map of existing streams, springs, groundwater aquifers, and the potential mobile zones, that can get activated because of change in water flow systems. This is a complete hydrogeological data chahiye. The third is okay, mapping the impact of constructions on the hill slopes in totality, to develop early warning systems, using land creep and land strain measurement devices. Land creep and land strain measurement devices. And this article says landslides are actually never sudden. Maybe the event of record kar to sudden ho gaya, but there enough signs that tells the land will collapse. It could be faults, joints, okay, some rocks can slip. अगर आपके पास sensors installed हैं, which can measure if there is some movement going on, okay, you can well in time, if not prevent, at least evacuate the vulnerable population. So move from simply local construction-based intervention to mapping of the rocks and slopes, to mapping of geological hydrological data, and third is, okay, whatever are the vulnerable areas in the entire hill slope region because of construction. तो आपने यहाँ पर क्या construction, फिर आप ये पूरे hill का मुआयना करें. Your weak cracks could be here, they could be here, they could be here, they could be here, anywhere. Not simply strengthening the slope here. One more suggestion here, that the traditional method invariably relates afforestation as an important solution. It relates afforestation as an important solution. However, relying solely on afforestation may not be an immediate pragmatic option for high vulnerable regions, for high vulnerability, landslide vulnerability regions. It's like, afforestation jo hai, it's a long-term solution. Okay, it is effective where the disruptions are the least. जैसे कह रहे ना कि योगा जैसे आपका है, that's a great solution to avoid ailments, overall healthy. But जहाँ पर crisis है, management है, where you need a surgery, you can't rely on yoga alone. Where I know the slopes are vulnerable, the cracks have opened up, okay, there is subsidence going on, वहाँ पर those areas must go beyond afforestation. They're talking about very strong structural measures, okay, while not ignoring the solutions in terms of afforestation. Okay, so landslide management में I don't know, I'm thinking because last 2 बार में पूछ दिया है landslides. They've asked once in your GS paper, once also in mains paper. Okay, nevertheless, because Joshimath news में है, I just thought I'll cover that. So this one, so एक question था आपका, the question लिखो आप. The question was, a paradigm change is required for assessment and mitigation of land risks, landslide risks, and the inadequacy of the traditional approach, Okay, so questions ke through, teach some content and use it. Rajendra, okay, I didn't know about this. Rajendra says, Sikkim is using sensor-based landslide warning system. So, please write down. Sikkim uses a sensor-based landslide warning system. So, I've taken care of forest fires, landslides. Now, something on marine heat waves. Kafi news mein hai, and खासकर Indian Ocean के context में. Okay, marine heat waves. So, write down. Marine heat waves are instances of above average temperatures persisting for more than 5 days, temperatures in the excess of 1.5 to 2 degrees centigrade over the average of the ocean or the sea. 1.5 2 degrees above the average of the ocean or the sea. The average is say 25, then 27, 28 for 5-6 days is a marine heat wave. The average is 20, okay, then maybe 22 for 4-5-6 days is a marine heat wave. So measured with respect to the average of the marine temperatures. Let's write down. Marine heat waves are mainly because of number one, higher irradiation and absorption of insolation in the oceans. The marine area, large area. Marine area will not even have much of cloud cover, okay, in the open seas. So all of that will result in more and more sunlight getting absorbed. यहीं पे ऐड कर सकते हो positive climate forcing because of increased irradiation. Positive climate forcing because of positive irradiation impacts the oceans. Impacts the oceans. That's one reason. Second reason is higher transfer of heat. Higher transfer of heat from the terrestrial ecosystems onto the waters. From the terrestrial ecosystems, lands onto the water, because land gets very hot, and that ultimately shifts or it transfers toward the oceans. And the third is the climatic phenomena such as El Nino. Phenomena such as El Nino results in average warming of the oceans. Average El Nino results in average warming of the oceans. There was this study by Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, IITM, Pune. Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, IITM. It says 90% of the warming caused by greenhouse gas emissions in the atmosphere, 90% of warming caused by greenhouse gas emissions in the atmosphere are absorbed by the oceans. Are absorbed by the oceans. Now, Indian Ocean mein, there are two main areas of marine heat waves. Indian Ocean has two main areas of marine heat waves. One is off Somali coast. This part here. This is Madagascar, Somali coast. So call this as A. The second is marine heat waves in parts of northern, northeast Bay of Bengal. This is Western Arabian Sea के part में, and this is North and Northeastern Bay of Bengal. और ये दोनों का बहुत अलग impact है. Okay, and write down this point here. In the last 10 years, again IITM, last 10 years, Indian Ocean has witnessed 15 episodes of severe marine heat waves. Severe marine heat waves. We're almost till a depth of 100 meters. The temperatures were 5 to 7 degrees Celsius above normal. 5 to 7 degrees Celsius above normal. 100 meters, depth of 100 meters. Okay. Now, in दोनों का impact क्या है? If this happens, by the way, marine heat waves, they are associated with monsoons. Okay, rainy monsoons. This can be in the month of August, because September. Okay. What happens in this time is, अगर ये वाला बनता है, this kind of weakens the southwest monsoon wind. ये बन जाएगा low pressure. Okay, so the southwest monsoon winds, rather than going towards, I guess, South Asia, they stop here. They will weaken the southwest monsoon winds. We can have dry conditions. ये 2016 में हुआ है. El Nino year, warming year, and this happens. But if this is the marine heat wave ka center, in that case, this enhances. The winds go faster and turn here. So the Bay of Bengal mein hota hai marine heat waves. Okay, it enhances the summer monsoon winds. And when it is in the Western Arabian Sea, it weakens the southwest monsoon winds. I am reading an article of Down to Earth. उसमें ये diagram है. So आप देख लें more or less to make sense. Oh, you can't see it here. There's something about this. You have a fair sense now. Okay? Yes. If you have a heat wave here, strong monsoon winds here, but you have got weak monsoons here. अब ये diagram बना. And if you have got a marine heat wave here, okay, so this part has good wet monsoons, and this turning can be weak, okay, because they can go straight like this. The gradient ऐसा ही है. This turning can be weak, but this part can have, and in general, both cases, the interiors, of course, will be drier. Okay, so use this, talk about marine heat wave, Bay of Bengal, and marine heat wave in Western Indian Ocean, and impact on the monsoons. Take all of you? Okay. Next, the impact of the heat waves. The impact of the heat waves. So one is, I said, monsoon disruption. Ab bata dena kaise? Monsoon disruption. That's one. Number two, it impacts the marine life. It impacts marine life. Okay. Now, ek aur report hai. This says that in the Indian Ocean, it's like a case study. Okay, in the Indian Ocean, there has been a dramatic decline in the planktons, because of higher temperatures, This impacts overall, marine biodiversity. That's one. Number two is higher temperatures intensify stratification of ocean waters. They intensify stratification of ocean waters. Remember, we have the upper parts as warm water, lower part is cold water. आप जितना ज़्यादा इसको warm करोगे, the thermocline gets more and more intensified. It will prevent the vertical mixing of the water. Okay, this is a stratification of the ocean layers. More warm waters, and this in relation is very cold waters. Allow nahi karega because the thermocline now will become very prominent. Okay, it will not allow for the vertical mixing of waters. Iske wajah se there will be less of nutrient mixing, less upwelling, and therefore less planktons, impacting fisheries. Take some data here. It says, okay, again, IITM and National Institute of Oceanography, Goa, NIO. Mention some institute's name, okay, it always adds credibility. It says, the Indian Ocean has recorded a 20% decrease in marine phytoplankton, and more than 30% decline in Western Indian Ocean. 30% decline in the Western Indian Ocean in the last 16 years. Next fact is, Indian Ocean has recorded the most rapid warming of all the tropical seas. वो सबसे ज़्यादा enclosed यही वाला area. Third point, there has been a decline in fish catch by 50 to 90%. Fish catch by 50 to 90%. Okay. This is because of the aquatic food web. Driven by phytoplanktons has been impacted. So the sentence I am reading out, which I asked as a question for discussion, it says, write down, Indian Ocean is a great challenge not only for the humans. The Indian Ocean is a great challenge not only for the humans because of unreliable monsoons, incidences of cyclones, tsunami vulnerability, and threats of sea level rise. Indian Ocean jo hai, they are causing problems for the people. Why? Because monsoons are more erratic. Cyclones happen. We have problems because of tsunami, because areas, Bay of Bengal wale are tsunami vulnerable areas. Plus sea level rise. You've got large cities here. Continue here. But they also are having impact on marine biota. They're also having an impact on marine biota because of weakening food chain of marine grazing ecosystems. Weakening food chains of the marine grazing ecosystem. Sentence makes sense now to all of you? What do you mean by marine grazing ecosystem? Basically phytoplanktons, which the fishes will eat. If the upwelling is weak, waters are warm, okay, there's no much phytoplanktons, there's no much upwelling, mixing come here, so impacting the resources for the grazing. So phytoplanktons are like grasses which the fishes eat on. And now the Indian Ocean accounts for more than 20% of global tuna catch. Okay, and that has been impacted. That's one. Second is marine heat waves. Second point is marine heat waves have changed the natural ecological balance. And there is macro algal regime shifts. That impacts specialized ecosystems like the coral reefs of Indian Ocean. It impacts specialized ecosystems like the coral reefs of Indian Ocean. इस पे एक सवाल पूछा हुआ है already. Okay. The issue here is basically what happened is the corals and the algae, they live in some kind of symbiosis, but not with any algae, right? The algae is a special algae called as zooxanthellae algae. But if there is warming, there are new algae that invade, and this zooxanthellae algae is getting replaced. We call this as macroalgal regime shift. Okay, the algae of the coral reef ecosystems are getting replaced by this new invasive algae. The most invasive is the red algae. Okay, I forget the name. One of them which I remember is the red algae. Okay, ये जो replace हो गया, the original algae which was in symbiotic relationship with the corals, they get replaced by this new invasive algae. इसको बोलते हैं macroalgal regime shift. They are related to algal blooms. Okay, suddenly some type of algae will proliferate and impacting all the corals of that region. Okay, so marine heat wave ka, how it impacts marine life forms. So I know about, okay, warm water and cyclones, I understand. Warm water and rise of sea level, I understand. Warm water and how it can impact coral reefs, ठीक है. But specifically ये दो चीज हो रहा है. The grazing ecosystem is impacted, and second is macroalgal, okay, shifts, regime shifts. ठीक है, all of you? Okay, so that takes care of marine heat waves. So it says, इसी में says that the global warming could turn Indian Ocean into an ecological desert. एक down to earth article है. Global warming can turn Indian Ocean into ecological desert. So use these headings as case studies. Okay, आपको मैं बना के दे रहा हूँ diagram के साथ में, data के साथ में. Okay. So challenge is not that आपको ये question समझ में नहीं आएगा. You must have content right on it. You can't simply write down water is warm and coral bleaching and keep quiet. Some data, some facts, some diagrams. Okay, so I hope that helps you. Okay, so this topic is done. Forest fires, Canadian forest fire, landslides. Yes. Now, I would like you to focus on gender issues and environment, like either in GS or in optional, dono mein. Okay, because there is a lot of literature on that. When I'm framing questions or I'm thinking of, okay, what to teach, so I keep track of कि क्या-क्या news चल रहा है. Okay, so gender environment का there is increased lot of, और अगर नहीं भी पूछेगा, you always add that as a part of small discussion from your side. Okay, write down, give a heading: gender issues, environment, and climate change. Gender issues, environment, and climate change. Yesterday, I think we talked about SDG, right? SDG 5 hai. Okay, for women issues, gender issues, it is SDG 5. Just know this: women issues, gender equality is SDG 5. Okay. So before I discuss it, let me give you a question. Okay. आप इसको सोचो कि एग्जाम हॉल में मिला है आपको, and how can you think through it? Forget about the specifics. Structure कैसे बनेगा? Question is gender-based exploitation. Gender-based exploitation, okay, is linked to environmental degradation. Is linked to environmental degradation and breakdown of climate change related adaptation challenges or adaptation initiatives. Okay, gender issues, gender-based exploitation is related to environmental degradation and also to the breakdown of climate change related adaptation initiatives. Discuss this. 15-20 mark, whatever you want to think on. तो आप इसको कैसे लिखेंगे? I was seeing the question paper. I'll discuss with you right now. Environment geography में कोई pattern नहीं है. It's like every year they come up with and topics are not directly from the syllabus either. Okay, आप hindsight बोलोगे अच्छा ये तो syllabus से linked है. Bearing maybe one question on human adaptations. One was on human ecological issues. Otherwise, most are related, but you can't anticipate it. Okay, so tell me, let's see. अच्छा आपको सारा environmental laws का idea तो है आपको, I believe. The global level पे वही 4-5 laws हैं. आपके आंसर में यूज करना CBD, sites, CMS, okay, Ramsar. So make sure you are using that in the answers. In fact, you can have lot of answers around the concept of CBD itself. CBD is preservation of biodiversity. CBD is sustainable use of biodiversity. CBD is also equitable sharing of biodiversity. 1992 adoption, and you are on there. Legally binding. ये 4-5 word डाल के छोड़ देना है आपको. Recently, I think May में हुआ है. India has signed an MOU, with CMS for preservation of Siberian cranes, for dugong. And of course, this is not a legally binding MOU nahi hai, but it's there. Okay, let me see how I can give that list to you. So ye pehle try karte hain. First try this. You all are jumping, writing. I hope you have done the storyline first. Adat dalo. Any question asked to you, you must first think of the storyline. What are those 5 or 6 boxes? First do the storyline, please side mein, margins mein karo. Okay, let's see. First box आप क्या बनाना चाहेंगे? First box, the first introduction बन जाएगा. What will it talk about? And think of whatever you know. You already have a good range of content last 2 or 3 days के अंदर में. I've given data, I've given facts to you. क्या-क्या use कर सकते हो? The question is women issues, women exploitation, and there is some linkage with climate change. From what was it about? Oh yes, yeah, okay, yes, you can start that. If you have some data, fine. Yes, you can. Yes, I hinted there, no? SDG बहुत important है. SG5, 17 targets में ये बहुत critical aspects है. And this in turn is also linked to many other goals also. Poverty के साथ linked है, hunger के साथ linked है. Issues related to your marine ecosystems, coastal areas, forests. So there's something there, that women issues, sustainable development, and there is climate change. They are related to one another. Something on those lines. Essentially saying that climate change का बहुत profound impact है, but women issues are generally ignored. This is my initiation wala focus. We say climate change, sea level rise. We say climate change, problems of food, climate change, cyclones, and all of that. But we need to discuss exclusively also how climate change is related to women issues, because without this, SDG 5 gets compromised. Start from there itself. आपको जो तब पता है, it's like you have your memory library there. खोजो जो पता है आपको. Pick up some facts, pick up some details. That's one. Then the first box. The second box can be, how does climate change increase women's plights? Women ka hunger, women domestic abuse, women and loss of jobs, women and their participation rates. Because bulk of the women agriculture mein hai. Most of them are informal sector. Very high poverty in rural tribal belts, and women are part of it. So when there's climate change problems, the women do get impacted. Okay. Impact ka forms kya hai? You can talk about firewood problems, problems of drinking water, problems related to health issues, water ka problem. See, women are very vulnerable to lack of proper potable water for health, sanitation, and drinking. Sanitation problems. I think women may, these are some of the very common concerns. Pani ke around hai, drinking water, food, and so on. So this is one about how does climate change impact women. Then maybe one box on ki how women are part of climate change mitigation strategies. Women are in many cases the climate warriors. Women, because see, in any community, even if I say adverse sex ratio, can I not safely say about 50% are women? आप कहीं भी गांव चले जाएं, ठीक है, 50 नहीं है तो 40%, 45% और कितना होगा? There's almost half of a community. So if you're looking at grassroots empowerment, if you're looking at grassroots level engagement, looking at people's participation, women are a very important component. So women are in many ways the climate change mitigation warriors. Women, in fact, are relatively more effective in climate change strategies. Because of the understanding how important water is for them. In fact, हमारे case studies में you'll find watershed development projects. Some of the most actively participating population are the women, because water sanitation सबसे ज़्यादा उन्हीं को impact करता है. You lack water, you're walking for miles for one pot of water. They're directly impacted, so they are like warriors here. Okay. से मुझे एक बनाना है case study, अलग से पढ़ा नहीं है. Okay. What do you think you can make one case study as? ठीक है, I mean something जिसमें कि आप 3-4 लाइन लिख सकें with a diagram. मैंने ऐसे case study, I need 4-5 sentences. I need a map or a diagram and some data if I can generate. आप बताओ, आपको बात करना है climate change and women. क्या मैप दिखाओगे? Have you read something very nice? Marathwada region, Latur region. Pick up a region, what you know. You are from Chhattisgarh. तो मैप बनाओ छत्तीसगढ़ का, 2-3 cities दिखा दो. You can't be wrong by saying that these areas have out migration of say population. Show arrow mark and show. Okay, you can show what areas have water distress. अगर आप महाराष्ट्र से हैं, आप दिखाइए अपना विदर्भा मराठवाड़ा दिखाओ. अगर आप यूपी से हैं, show the dry parts of western UP and बुंदेलखंड regions. अगर राजस्थान से हैं, दिखाओ राजस्थान में कहाँ-कहाँ पर dry pockets हैं. Every state has a dry pocket for yourself, no? अगर हिल एरियाज हैं, आई एम श्योर यू नो कि कहां पे हमारे हिल एरियाज में है वाटर स्ट्रेस प्रॉब्लम्स. So you have to apply. See, you cannot say कि हर बार वही पूछेगा जो आप पढ़े हो. You have to force it. You have to force कि मुझे एक मैप बनाना है, showing places and some phenomena there. Have heard about joint forest management? सुना है आपने? कहाँ हो सकता है बताओ? Where can we have joint forest? We watch what areas of India? Yeah, हिमाचल प्रदेश, उत्तराखंड, और कहाँ पर होगा? Where else? Northeast में fine. I mean, if you want to even bluff, आप क्या bluff करोगे आप? And you can't go wrong. पूरे इंडिया में हो रहा है JFM. You can't go wrong. Pick up any district you want to pick up. आप अपना शहर देखो, अपने state में can pick up 1 or 2 name of districts at least there. Say joint forest management, okay, and name of district there, and bluff your way through there. So and so village, okay, put some percentage. You have to think on these ideas. Yes. अहमदनगर डिस्ट्रिक्ट, ओके, सबसे कॉमन आसान होगा. अहमदनगर डिस्ट्रिक्ट, हिवड़े बाजार और अन्ना हजारेज, ओके, मॉडल, ओके, एंड यू आर ऑन देयर. अलवर रीजन, इफ यू नो अबाउट दैट, राइट अबाउट दैट वन. सो हमें एक चाहिए केस स्टडी, हाउ विमेन हैव बीन पार्ट ऑफ क्लाइमेट चेंज मिटिगेशन स्ट्रेटजीज. ओके, इफ यू नो द हिल रीजन्स, चंबा, पिथौरागढ़, चमोली, अगर आप जानते हैं तो वहां का बना हुआ. So you'll have to create this. You can't wait कि okay, हम पढ़ाएंगे तो लिखेंगे. You have enough data with all of you now. Can you at least say, do you remember some data of population? कितना migration होता है urban rural बताओ? How much of migration of India is rural to urban migration? Any idea here? Yeah? Yes, it's around 35-36%, correct. So अगर आप average भी लगाते हो, on average, can you say the high migration because of climate change has increased from say about 20-25% to about more than 30%? इतना बता सकते हैं आप लोग? Average याद है ना आपको, more or less. So we want you to force some kind of case studies now. So if I was making, I would have said Jharkhand belt or say Chhattisgarh. Like I would have drawn Chhattisgarh like this: Son Raipur, Jagdalpur, Dantewada, forest regions, whatever I know. Okay, and I would say these are Indravati River. Indravati River here. So JFM in management of Kanked forests. Kanked forest basin है, Kanked basin है. Okay, I'm entirely creating right now in front of you. मैंने पढ़ा नहीं है इसके बारे में. But I know Kanked forest है. I know Indravati है. I know southern Jagdalpur region है. Okay, and you're on. You know, we talk about Bundelkhand. So what I do is here. This is approximately like this. Okay, this is the UP part, Jhansi. Okay, you have got Gwalior, Hamirpur. So maybe I put a box like this. Okay, the Bundelkhand region, Bundelkhand forest. Okay, and city's name Shivpuri, Jhansi, Gwalior, Hamirpur, and say this is the dry plateau regions. Okay, now this area जो है, this is part of the Betwa. Okay. And the Chambal systems. Okay, Betwa Chambal system यहाँ पर है. यहाँ पर JFM. Okay, and say something you want to say here. आप अपने आप बनाने का कोशिश करो. Okay, I'll spend some time with all of you to practice 4, 5, 6 India's map. Sorry, states map. No Maharashtra, no Gujarat. Kutch to pata hi hoga na, if nothing else. You can't go wrong by saying, okay, Kutch region mein we will have some kind of programs. Kutch, so आपको पता है यहाँ पर कहाँ पर कांडला है, कहाँ पर राजकोट है, गांधीनगर है, okay, parts of यहाँ पर this is your Jaisalmer parts. So put some regions here, dry parts here, okay, and say, okay, we have some joint forest management or something there, and you're on. So use yourself now. Okay, आपको exactly हर चीज नहीं पता होगा, आपको create करना पड़ेगा. That's my point here. ठीक है? So what we'll do is, अभी तो हम करा देंगे इसको. Maybe one of these days, when I'm entering India, India शुरू नहीं हुआ in a big way, I will want कि आप 5-6 states, districts, and pick your choice. कि ये करूंगा ना मुझे याद हो जाएगा. You should know map of 2 or 3 cities. You must know maps of 3-4 states. You must know details of some couple of districts. Okay, pick up some tribes as case studies. Pick up some islands, जो news में है, if you can, and remember those in one sheet. Take all of you here. So our structure of the answer was this one. Okay, so first start with SDGs, how they get compromised, how ignore women issues, how women suffer the most because of climate change. Okay, water issues हैं, sanitation problems हैं, fodder problems हैं, firewood problems हैं. Okay, and how women, their role gets compromised if there's climate change. Gives me examples where women have contributed to the climate change mitigation, and conclude the answer. Okay, the fundamental premise of all climate change initiatives is that they have to be equity based. Equity based where women are also important. Equity based where small farmers are important. Is it okay, all of you here, all of you? Okay. So now you have the structure with you. Apna structure compare. If you have some points in the structure, let me know. I could think of these 6-7 boxes. In general climate change, and women ignore. Okay, women suffer because of climate change. Women are part of climate change initiatives. Okay, and one case study with some district states, and in the answer, the solutions have to be equitable. The problem must be solved from the perspective of gender rights also. Okay, yes, please. आपको जितना आपको पता है, तो आप लोग बेटा prelims, most of you have cleared prelims, और नहीं भी किए हो, you are there almost. Okay, 6-7 questions. इस बार CSAT, but you know the content, right? So now dig out from your memory. या इसको डालना है, इसको डाल सकते हैं. You need more of thinking on this. ठीक है? Okay. So write down something. Write down. I'm giving you like series of statements दे रहे हैं आपको. Like insights I'm giving you. See how you want to use it. The first point is the climate breakdown and environmental degradation. Climate breakdown and environmental degradation has a very strong gender dimension, both in terms of impact on women and girls, and also in terms of hampering, opportunities to tackle the environmental crisis, hampering the opportunities in tackling the crisis. Next point, there are reports of how environmental degradation directly is related to resource scarcity, increased ecosystem stresses, increased pressure on environment, and increased gender-based violence. I'm reading out a report of IUCN. You can quote this one. According to IUCN, it's published in Guardian. Okay. Next one, write down. Environmental migrants and refugees includes substantial number of women who are also impacted by human trafficking, as their original indigenous habitats are lost or stressed because of droughts, floods, because of droughts, because of floods, or extreme decline in agriculture productivity. Women forced into prostitution, forced marriage, child marriage. Prostitution, forced marriage, child marriage, directly as a consequence of climate change induced poverty. Climate change induced poverty. A typical pattern, okay? If you have a crisis environment wala, one option is, okay, you will take a loan. The next step, loan doesn't work out, you'll sell your land. Selling land doesn't work out, you'll sell whatever cattle you might have. Generally, people prefer not to sell cattle for religious reasons or even because like a bit of affection, okay? Because you are with the cattle, so usko thoda der se bechte hain. A small patch of land, and then the next is give away the daughter in marriage. Okay, they give it off almost like sold out. If it is a boy, he gets married because he gets dowry. If it's a girl, it's a sellout. And sellout ke baad mein, it's going to be human trafficking. Uske baad mein you talk about migrations or leaving house or whatever. The direct linkage hai. Climate change, droughts, floods, agriculture decline of productivity, down. Is that down? These patterns of gender abuse is common in Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin American countries, and also South Asian countries. Next point. Climate change forces women into illegal activities like poppy cultivation, illegal logging, okay, and also poaching in areas vulnerable to wildlife trade. Next point. Water issues are the biggest challenges related to climate change. Water issues are the biggest challenges related to climate change that impacts women directly. In South Asia, in the drier parts of Western Northern Plains, the average walking distance for collecting water, increases by more than 5 kilometers. In the drought seasons. The same stresses increases dramatically in the hill regions. Because of water crisis. Okay? Next slide down. Agriculture impact also impacts women employment and women participation. In most rural ecosystems, women have a fair comparable contribution in agriculture economics. They have a fair comparable contribution in agriculture economics. That includes sowing, harvesting, transportation, post-harvest processing, and also in agriculture trade cooperatives, and self-help groups. Climate change impacts all these livelihood options. And the impact is disproportionate for women. In the very poor, marginalized, communities and tribes. Write down. Out-migration, next point. Out-migration by male members actually increases the distress of the women. With out-migration, ऐसा नहीं है कि उनको हाथ में आ जाएगा पैसे. They must wait, they will work, they send something remittance, they may not send also, you do not know. And in the absence of male members, the exploitation is all the more likely. You never know how the ecosystem works there in the villages and the tribal groups. Okay, so climate change and impact on women. Next slide now. Women also operate as drivers to mitigate climate change. They're part of forest conservation strategies. Watershed development programs. Next, likho. while men in tribal communities, get more involved in commercial forestry, while the men get more involved in commercial forestry, okay, women get more involved in biodiversity conservation, multiple projects-based management, which ensures fuelwood fodder, water, and NTFP. What's NTFP? Non-timber forest produce. Basically minor forest produce. Non-timber forest produce. This explains why the women have been at the forefront of conservation movements, like when women have been in the forefront of conservation movements like Chipko and Khejri, Chipko movement, and Khejri, Khejri, Khejri. Women participation, next point, women participation has invariably improved the successes of JFM approach. Improved successes of JFM approach. Yeah, I think I've covered most of the points here. It says, a study in Chhattisgarh, a study in Chhattisgarh has noted the following about women in environmental management. It says, NTFPs are important for women is proven by the fact NTFP is non-timber forest produce or minor forest produce are important for the women. It's proven by the fact, number one, there are 3 times as many women as men in gathering NTFP. There are 3 times as many women as men in gathering NTFP. Processing of NTFPs are exclusive to women. Processing of NTFPs are exclusive to women. Third, twice as many women as men are involved in marketing of NTFPs. Sal leaf plate is mostly done by women. Sal leaf plates are mostly done by women. Women do 75% of marketing of mushrooms, fruits, and mahua flowers. Women do 75% of marketing of mushrooms, of fruits, and mahua flowers. Gum collection from Gujarat is almost exclusively done by women. In the state of MP alone, the NTFP by women was valued at more than $700 million annually. Hence, it is understandable why women are more inclined in forest management when they're involved in JFMs. Women are more inclined in forest management when they are included in JFM. And I like this statement. It says, despite this, ye aap last mein add kar sakte ho, despite this, forest policies and forest practices have remained gender blind and ignored the relationship of women and forests. Women are yet to be involved at a larger scale in climate change mitigation strategies. They're yet to be involved in large scale in climate change mitigation strategies. So I think you have got enough data now of environment pe, ecosystems pe. If I read out this one, just telling you what type of questions they ask on environment. Biogeography, आप इसको अलग वैसे भी नहीं कर पाओगे, but ठीक है, I have a sense here. High altitude environmental hazards. ये cloud bursts, GLOF, landslides is a big deal. ये last year पूछा हुआ question है. Okay. Sequential change in land use and land cover have brought global regional ecological balances. So deforestation, agriculture, mangrove wala impact, we have changed the land use there. You can talk about how urbanization is changing and what it does. जितना पढ़ा है कल से आप सारा apply कर सकते हो इसमें. Plants, animals that exist in an ecosystem are those that are successfully adjusting to habitat and environmental conditions. इसमें एक example डाल सकते हो on speciation. How speciation is example of plants and animal adjusting to environment and becoming a new species altogether. बाकी तो आपका वही है, hexagon आप बनाएं, plants, okay, winds, temperature, and so on. So plants, animals Okay, are those which are successful in adjusting environment habitat is with examples. I'm just seeing जितना पढ़ाया आपको मैंने उससे मैं कितना आंसर कर सकता हूँ. Okay, describe how ecosystem services of Himalaya are essential for highland sustainability in Asia. So when you say ecosystem services, provisioning food, water, timber, logging, regulating services. I hope you all know these terms, right? कल बताया था शायद आप लोगों को. Talk about that and bring in the concept of examples from the states. ये पूछा है in Asia. You talk about Himalayas, East Himalayas, West Himalayas, and think of what type of ecosystem you might have in Afghanistan. The Afghanistan, Hindu Kush Mountains, okay? That's what I know. I know China, Tibetan areas. वहां पर कैसा ecosystem है? Again, herding है, pastoralism है. You'll have cattle, you'll have sheep, and say something there. Okay. Think of Arakan Yuma, Pegu Yuma mountains. Okay. And talk about teak there. अब आपको न्यूज में पता है ना पॉपी कल्टीवेशन ऑन पार्ट्स ऑफ म्यांमार. सो आपको ऐसे रिलेट करना है. एक है जेनेरिक राइट अप, राइट मोर अबाउट इंडिया, एंड बाकी में स्मॉल डायग्राम बता देना आप लोग. ओके. एशिया यू नीड नॉट कवर ऑल एशिया. इतना भी डाल दो, दैट्स गुड इनफ. कार्बन न्यूट्रलिटी, दिस इज योर जीएस वाला क्वेश्चन. I'll skip this one for now. Human ecological adaptations. I think it's a straight question. I don't need to teach you here. The biological adaptations, the human adaptations, the agriculture aspects. Okay. Problems of living environment, million plus cities. So I'll take this towards urbanization eventually. In fact, I was told yesterday Hindu newspaper में a good article on urban problems आया है. Okay, see if you can see that and maybe make some notes. What was that, Rajinder? I missed that. He says in Darjeeling, women are the backbone of tea industry, yes. Yet they are the poorest. Absolutely, yes. Add that in your discussions. Okay. Human response to and the management of hazards and disasters in India. इसको अलग-अलग बना लो. What are the human response to floods? Human response to droughts? Human response to cyclones? For example, देना floods. Rajasthan, what happens? Okay. Biparjoy cyclone, and what did we do? Droughts, probably in parts of Rajasthan or the dry parts of this one, whatever you know about talent farming, conservation agriculture, issues of micro irrigation, add up all of that together. So break up the topic in terms of heads, what hazards we have and what do we do. Okay. And now that we have done something on women, you can add something here. These are some of the important initiatives we have missed out. Climate change mein. What have we done for fire hazards? Not much. Write 2 lines on that. What have we done for hazards like landslides? Kya traditional method hai? And what do we need to do now on? Whatever you know, aap isko dimag mein hona chahiye. And you keep on adding from this. Okay. So human ecology. Okay, this is a different one. Amensalism. Amensalism is that negative and neutral wala relationship. Okay. So if you look at last 2-3 years questions mein, we are seeing all range of questions. इसको आप syllabus के साथ directly map नहीं कर सकते. So what I'll suggest is last 3 classes, whatever I've covered, climate change, oceans, upper tropospheric winds, forest fire, women. I've covered topics related to biodiversity. आप ये सबको 2-3 बार revise करके, okay, it's think about questions आप कैसे apply करोगे इसमें. And you can write down कि आपके answers में you could, I will not teach this to you right now, अब लिख लो आप. Some of the legislations, convention programs that you can use. Some of the legislations, conventions and programs that we can use. One I said is use CBD. Okay. At least CBD 1992. CBD is legally binding. अगर CBD का 3 objectives जो है, conservation of biodiversity, sustainable use of biodiversity and equitable sharing. Okay. Now CBD, whatever you can add as Cartagena Protocol, Nagoya Protocol, they all are legally binding. Talk about that. Okay. Mention Aichi where you can. Aichi goals, the 20 goals that we have. Okay. Now you know Aichi was not binding, but Kunming is binding. So Kunming ka kya? Some heads. Try using all of that. Migratory birds, CMS, the Bonn Convention. And India signing an MOU with CMS. India signing MOU with CMS on Siberian cranes, on dugong conservation. On dugong conservation. Okay, that's one. Then talk about Ramsar. Is Ramsar legally binding? No, it's not. Ramsar is not legally binding. But Ramsar facts 75 sites hain since the last that we learned. The last, at least remember 4 or 5 names. The map bana conservation. Say Chilka Lake, Kilodiao Ghana Lake. You have got Loktak Lake, Vembanad. You have this Pulikat Lake, Sundarbans. अब दिखा सकते हैं at least ना कि these are the initiatives of Ramsar Convention wetlands. लिख लो आप वो point. तो होता है क्या एग्जाम लिखने वक्त में स्ट्राइक नहीं करता है. Ask you a question of the sea level rise problems and solutions. So immediately you can say the Ramsar sites along the coastal areas are covered under some programs, and show it what are the Ramsar sites which can be impacted by sea level rise. आपके पास उस कंटेंट यूज करो उसको आप लोग. Okay, use Ramsar. You talk about Kunming का 2050 का vision जो है, living in harmony with the nature by 2050. Okay, Kunming का 30 by 30, 30% of the world's land to be protected by 2030. Okay, talk about that. Biodiversity में that concept of wise use. इसको wise use, biosphere reserves. Okay. UN strategic plan for forests 2030. UN strategic plan for forests 2030. Bond challenge to restore 150 million hectares of a world's degraded land by 2030 and 350 million hectares by 2050 and 350 million hectares by 2050. At least mention UNCCD. We call these as a trio of the Rio Summit. A trio are CBD, UNFCCC, and UNCCD. The 3 are the trios of the Rio Summit. Biodiversity treaty that we have CBD, United Nations climate change wala, and third is the desertification. Use these terms wherever you can. Yes, you can do that. Yes. Okay, then at least know the maps of India's biosphere reserves. कहीं ना कहीं abuse कर सकते हो. 18 of them. Okay. Kutch, Agastha Malai, Nilgiris, Gulf of Mannar. Any answer on oceans में या coast पे Gulf of Mannar पक्का लेके आना. Gulf of Mannar, Seshachalam forests, Panchmadi, Panna, Amarkantak, Sundarbans, Simlipal, Nanda Devi, Kanchenjunga, Dibru Saikova, Manas, Nokrek, Dihang, Dibang, Nicobar. So at least ये जो locations हैं maps में crude map कर लेना. Like in Nilgiris, you know where do we have Panna, you know where we have Simlipal. Approximate mark करके keep it ready. So you need to train yourself कि these are my raw material और मुझे use करना है in my answers. ठीक है? So finish off this one. Okay, then I'll take you to the rest eventually.